Alrighty, so this morning meditation has a little backdrop sound. Perhaps you hear it, perhaps you don't. I hope you do. I'm just out at Wallis Sands, up on a rock, looking out at the ocean waves. And the waves are really subtle. There's low tide. But I hope that you hear the effects of that. So I came out here this morning to walk, to be in the fresh air, to walk the beach and bare feet, put my feet in the water. And largely I just felt a pull to come out here. And I felt a pull to come out here because what I'm realizing and have been realizing is that the stimulus of life and the activity and the dynamic energy of life and humanity, and in my own life I'm speaking of, I just do all that better being out in nature. And I can go a couple of days and then there's a pull. There's something pulling me always back out here. Even if it's rainy, even if it's cold, which, fall and winter is on the way. Winter is coming. But I just feel better out in nature. As a kid, I always did. I felt more at home and more at peace in the woods. And now I live at the ocean, and the ocean feels like home. And that I have my home, and I chose my home to be here at the ocean. But basically for me, there are just certain things, there are certain people that feel like home. And if I don't have access and a connection to that, and I can't get to that, then my life personally feels off within myself. Doesn't matter what, it really just doesn't matter what there is. I'm at a very deep place and paramount place in my life where I am feeling the pull towards wanting to go home. And I think home, the people, the places, nature being a giant part of that, my family, the ones I deeply love, they just really kind of even out my nervous system. The pull of yoga, the pull of meditation, the pull of walking the beach, the pull of being in the woods, the pull of needing that. It's a sustenance. It's the sustenance. And it brings depth and flavor and vitality and a richness to life that can't quite reach just with the surface of things. And my hope is this meditation doesn't just quiet your mind and center your mind. It gets you to feel within yourself a pulling of what feels like home. Sit any way you'd like. It doesn't matter if you're doing this in the daytime or evening, and there's no right or wrong way. Just sit in a way that feels like, okay, I'm comfortable enough for a few minutes, and that'll work for me, as long as it works for you. It's got to work for you. Bring your arms down onto your thighs and bring your 10 fingertips to touch. Moving into your first exhalation. So if you've been holding your breath, you probably haven't even been aware of it. When we're holding our breath, we're normally not aware. And therefore, there's our disconnection to our body. There's our disconnection to our heart. There's our disconnection to creativity. There's our disconnection to just responding as opposed to reacting. So flesh out your exhalation. I want you to take your next breath in really slow. If the breath has been caught up in your upper chest for a while, the breath will kind of rush in. I want you to really make the focus on exhaling out like you're like air out of a tire or like a hissing snake. I'll do it with you. Notice when you move that air all the way down to the bottom of your lungs, your inhale does come in a little slower and a little calmer. That's what you want. Take the breath in. Pause it at the top. Empty it out. The more you flush out the exhalation, the more you are putting an anchor, if you will. You're planting seeds, and you're planting those seeds deeper into the ground so they will become roots of calm, of grounded parasympathetic nervous system energy. All 10 fingertips touching. Put your focus on just your thumb tips for right now. If you have a lot of anxiety, if you get a lot of, override in your head, I want you to keep your eyes open, but just softly gaze at your thumb tips touching. Take in the breath nice and slow, please. And then drop the breath fully to the bottom, nice and slow. You want the breath out to be longer and slower. Pause it. Softly feel your thumb tips touching. They're already touching, they've been touching, but it's getting your mind down into that space. I like to call it dropping in. When we show up to meditation, we're usually on the surface of mind and we have a whole bunch going on in there. We have a whole bunch going on around us in life all the time. Especially if you're an empathic person, you're always intuiting. You're like a human barometer for everyone else's moods and tensions and opinions and undertones. But then you start, so you can show up like that. You show up as in the state you just simply are, and you work with that. And then you just take in a breath again. Pause it at the top. Move it through like when you get the exhalation out, that's the dropping in. You're dropping beyond the surface chatter of mind, the constant inner critic. It softens a little bit. It starts to get some quiet in your brain, like, oh, what a relief. Release the exhalations long and slow to the bottom of your lungs, and your head finds relief. So meditation is not really something you got to work to do. In fact, the more you work at it, the more it'll suck. I should know I struggled a long time working way too hard in all things, meditation included. But the more you just go, I'm just going to inhale and fuck it. I'm just going to exhale everything out long and slow. And that tool of a hissing snake or air slowly being let out of a tire is such an awesome, strong, substantial image. Why? Because it works. It just works. Bring your eyes softly to your index fingers touching. See, they are already physically touching. Your mind just has to know it. So the index fingers already know the connection is there, the two fingers touching. The mind just has to soften and drop down into really feeling that connection and going, yeah, I don't have to think if my index fingers are touching. How do I know? I know because I feel it. And that's how you start connecting mind to body. You drop down out of your head, what your head's filled with, what everyone else has told you. That's just your personality self. Exhale out nice and slow. Our personality self is so valid. I mean, it's been with us our whole life. It's how we identify ourselves, like who we were born to, the family we were born into, what we do for work, our routine, the way we think, the way someone told us to think, the way someone told us we shouldn't think or feel. And then you just sort of get into a space where you want to drop away from all that. You want to go in a little further and explore a little deeper within yourself to come back to, this is how I truly feel. This is what I know. This is actually me and my strength. Your strength is always in your calm, and that's a constant practice for all of us to remember. Our power is in our calm. Our power is in being able to relax. And if that's not something our personality selves are wired to do, or people around us, their personality selves have been wired for more edge and more reaction and more defense, it's, like, where do we learn it then? How do we get access to it? So you step away from things, inhaling. Take the air out. Eyes are focused on your index fingers touching. You step away from things for a while and you just get plugged back into yourself. To things new within yourself and to things you've always known within yourself that have been long covered up and coagulated. Kept in the dark, things like that. Move your gaze to your middle fingers touching. Slow breath in. Move it all through. And there are things that have been buried in all of us. There are things buried in all of us. Your gaze is on your middle fingers. Even the sound of my voice, it's just beaming you down to your middle fingertips touching. And you just physically feeling your middle fingertips touching is a great vacation, staycation for the mind. Quiets down the Metallica concert we all have in our heads, Drop your gaze to your third fingers touching. Slowly breathe in. Pause it a moment. Move the air all the way down. If you can, go for like a count of 8. Third fingers are touching. Your concentration is just being funneled right down into the third fingers touching. How do you know they're touching? You know because you feel it. And you realize dropping out of your life, moving away, getting still, getting quiet, going within, will reconnect you to what's always been there. what you truly feel, what you truly know, truths that you're afraid to face, truths that you still do know underneath all of it. Even if we cover up for ourselves, even if we're resisting, there's an element of truth that is always, always, always poking us a little bit and prodding us all a little bit. And we're scared of it, you know? And then you realize that those truths are a doorway to your freedom. So you move into the space and go, where am I limited? Where am I blocked? On the other side of that is your liberation. Pinky fingers touching. Slowly breathe in. Pause it at the top. Exhale it out. Don't rush the exhalation, nice and slow. Feeling your pinky fingers touching. We're not really comfortable to go within ourselves, I think, you know. It's way more comfortable on the outside of us. It's scary to go towards things that are scary. There's a vulnerability to that, and that vulnerability can feel threatening, especially if it's things that have been locked up inside us and someone else said, keep out. So I hope my voice can just feel like an ally. It's sort of like taking you by the hand to go in, to feel safe enough to go towards yourself and realize there's a lot of great stuff in there. There's a lot of great wisdom underneath your worry, your fear. And I'm not on a soapbox here. I'm actually just sitting on a very mossy rock alongside a very quiet ocean wave. And I gotta walk this too, you know? So I'm not speaking from a place I'm also not in. All 10 fingers touching. Take a nice slow breath in. Move it all the way down to the bottom of your lungs. Your truth's inside you, what you know, your intuitive self. It's a quieter part of you. And that's why it's so easy to get just run over, trampled, especially if somebody else isn't in alignment with how you think or how you feel. Like you shouldn't feel that way, you know, things like that. And I think a lot of times, you know, for example, like if somebody wanted to, as a teenager said, I want to go into this for a career path after high school. But the parent is so hell-bent on that person being what they wanted for them. And then if that person doesn't have the sense of self and the sense of esteem to say, thanks for that suggestion. I think this would be the right way to go instead. But a lot of times that's so terrifying to do, to stand up to, you know? It's difficult to be in partnership and say, this is actually the path I want to go. This is actually where my heart feels it's pulling me. Somebody who wants to live in the city, but somebody says, no, I want to be in nature. I want to be at the ocean. I want to be in the woods. And someone's like, oh, I hate that. I hate bugs. And, you know, it's too crowded on the beach. And that person who wants to live in the city, it's absolutely what is best for them. So it's not wrong. And it's also so not wrong that the person says, this is where I want to be instead. And that's what happens. Intuition, someone else's intuition, keeps bumping up against the other. But the truth is if you want to live at the ocean, you should probably live at the ocean. If somebody says, I really want you to do this for work, and you say, yeah, but I'd rather do this instead, you will often try somebody else's way, because we'll think, well, they probably know best. Like, that's always the Grand Canyon hole I fell into. Always thinking somebody else knew best for my life. Terrified to put my voice into what my heart felt. And for so many years, I didn't know. I didn't know because I only did what everyone else said I should do or shouldn't do. And I ended up in some really bad neighborhoods in a lot of areas of my life. And the only thing I wish for you is this meditation today isn't just about helping you focus better, retain focus, remember what you need to remember for the day. But I hope it gets you to feel comfortable enough to go back inside and, as a practice starting to trust yourself better. Practice saying, I want to listen to my own inner voice and trust that better. So my wish for you is that freedom to get you towards whatever pulls you home, no matter how long it takes. Any road will always still want to get you back there. Take a big breath in. Feel the 10 fingers touching. Sigh it out. Namaste.